2026 is going to be a very important year for New Zealand football. And why is this, and why should you care? Well, a big reason for this is that in 2027, there's going to be a big change to the National League format. Basically, they're going to be doing away with the regional playoffs and just replacing it with a 12-team home and away league. For obvious reasons, this is a big deal. New Zealand for a while now has been one of the few leagues internationally that hasn't had a proper top division. And for those of you who don't know, we've actually had 6 different iterations of a first division historically. I'm looking at my notes here. We first had the National Soccer League from 1970 to 92, the Super Club competition from 93 to 95, Summer Soccer League from 96 to 98, the Island Soccer League, which only ran in 1999, the National Club Championship from 2000 to 2003, and then most recently the Football Championship from 2004 to 2021. I guess you could technically consider this current National League a first division. However, because it's a round robin that's brought about from a regional phase, I don't consider it a proper top flight. But if you do, then we've had 7 so far. So for obvious reasons, this competition is a big deal. We've had a very tumultuous relationship. The main issues historically have been financially related. It's been very difficult for clubs at a semi-professional level to handle cross-country travel on top of payments. It's why during the national club championship, they straight up ditched clubs and just went for franchises, similar to the A-League at the moment. I mean, for example, you would have Dunedin clubs who, at the best of times, were flying up to Christchurch, and at the worst of times, were flying as north as Auckland or Waitakere, you know what I mean? So it's why this current decision is very interesting to me. But this isn't to say that I'm against it. However, I think it's very important for football nation to have a proper top flight for clubs around the nation to strive for, to have a real, I guess, proper end goal. And say, yeah, this is high. I need to go to the national stage. I think that's very important to have. So a question you might have and be wondering is, if we're just going national, ditching the current setup after this current season, why should I bother actually tuning in? It's because this 2026 season is the most important to influencing the future of the National League in 2027. So it's a bit complicated, but basically how it works is New Zealand football, what they're going to do is they're going to look at all the various clubs within the National League system, and they're going to say, right, starting from 2021 when the competition first started up, how have you performed over each season ending with the 2026 season? So if you're consistently, if you're like Wellington Olympic or Auckland City constantly finishing first, then they're basically guaranteed to get into the competition unless, hell freezes over and they somehow end up being relegated. It's also worth noting that the more recent the season, the more it weighs on your chance of getting in. So for example, this 2026 season weighs for 30% of what they're accounting for when bringing clubs in. And that's why this season is so important. Because, certain clubs, if they shock the league and are able to finish first when they've never been able to do so, that could genuinely get them in. There's more at stake for these local clubs to fight for at the moment. So how it looks for each league, the Northern League, four teams get to qualify. So if you're consistently finishing top 4 in that league, then you're pretty much guaranteed to get through unless you have just a horrendous season. For the Central League, 3 teams are guaranteed to get in, and for the South Island, 2 teams. This might be controversial for some of you, but the Wellington Phoenix and Auckland FC reserves are guaranteed entry into the first season. I know people have very mixed opinions about these teams, but whether you like it or not, they will be involved, and you're just gonna have to live with it. But if you've been doing the math, it's only 11 spots. The final 12th spot, basically, they're gonna look at the 5th best club from up north, the 4th best from central, and the 3rd best from south, and those 3 clubs are going to have like a 3-team playoff to see who gets the 12th spot into the new National League. So I'm sure some of you are now wondering, what does it mean for the local leagues? I mean, you know, the Northern League could potentially have 5 teams who's leaving, so I'll quickly answer that. So the Northern League will be renamed to just become the NRFL, or the Northern Regional Football League. Under that will be the NRFL Championship, and I think one more league under that. They'll all be 10 teams, and I think just for this season specifically, promotion relegation will be halted, since, you know, there's gonna be so much club movement. For the Central League, I feel it's just going to remain as is. Only, you know, 3 or 4 Central League 2 teams are getting promoted, and two or 3 teams getting promoted to Central League 2. Again, there won't be any relegation, just because there's so much club movement going on. As for the Southern League, I don't believe they've officially released anything. However, they're only going to be losing 2 or 3 teams, let's be honest, most likely just 2. And they have 3 feeder leagues under them, that being the Canterbury Premiership, I believe it is, Nelson Bays, and the Southern Prems. So I think they would be just fine. There'd just be just 1 or 2 more teams being promoted than usual. So I don't think there'll be any change there. Now, your next question is probably, so which clubs are most likely to be promoted? Now, I'm not personally smart enough for that, but there are people who have done the math. I'm gonna want Andrew Veerman, I believe his name is. He's kindly done the math, and I'm just, for simplicity's sake, I'm just gonna read it off so you guys can get an idea of which teams are most likely to be promoted. So for the Northern League, the most likely clubs at the moment are Auckland City, Auckland United, Eastern Suburbs, and Western Springs. I believe Western Springs, they probably got a huge bounce from the fact that they won the Northern League in 2025. It's probably done a lot of heavy lifting for them. In 5th at the moment is Birkenhead United. They've been a very solid club in recent times, and of course, I believe it was the 2024 season, they made it to the grand final of the National League. So that's obviously big. And I guess some other clubs to potentially look out for. Looking at Vermon's numbers, it's not looking like any other clubs are likely to leapfrog them. So I guess the 2 clubs to look out for the most would probably be Western Springs and Birkenhead United. I think it's very likely that Birkenhead will leapfrog Western Springs, but we'll have to see how that goes. Look, moving down to the Central League, I don't think it's going to surprise many people to hear that the top three at the moment are Wellington Olympic, Miramar Rangers, and the Napier City Rovers, with Western Suburbs being, I guess, the close to spot. Similar thing, it's not looking like any of the other, I guess Karori and Batoni have the potential to break in, but it's not fully like I think Napier's kind of in that good spot where I guess they're the more middle of the country compared to like other places. They wouldn't have like as big as transport to Auckland, but who knows? Then moving on to the Southern League, that to me is going to be the most competitive. At the top, we have Christchurch United, Kashmir Tech. That's probably not a surprise for anyone. They're the only two clubs to win it more than once. I'll be very surprised. It's not impossible, it's very unlikely for them to be knocked off their perch. Although Coastal Spirits, they're not lagging too far behind. So, if they win it again, they could definitely leapfrog one of them. So to sum it up, the clubs most likely to make it through are Auckland City, Auckland United, Eastern Suburbs, Western Springs, Birkenhead, Olympic, Miramar Rangers, Napier City Rovers, Christchurch United, and Kashmir Tech. That's most likely going to be the league in 2027, but who knows? This could be the season that unlikely clubs go the extra mile and shock everyone. It's also worth noting, I would be doing an injustice by not telling you that there's also going to be a women's National League in 2027. It won't be 12 teams, it'll be 10. But this is huge because the women have never had their own proper top flight before. This is a first for New Zealand and a huge improvement for the game. Admittedly, I can't tell you honestly which clubs. I'm not as educated on the women's game. I haven't seen anyone put out any numbers for the women's club. All I know is that Auckland United are definitely getting in because they basically win everything, from what I can tell. Hi, future me here. This next part, I start to ramble for a while, so I'll add a timestamp if you don't want to listen. Yeah, just good stuff all around. I want to kind of end this video by giving my personal thoughts on the National League in 2027. Obviously, as I said before, this is great. I think it's always good to have a proper first division. When it comes to football, this is more than any other sport, this relies on promotion and relegation. And I feel like to not have that proper, pinnacle of the sport, I think just wasn't very good. For New Zealand, we need a complete system. But I think that doesn't disregard that we've done this multiple times, and every time financial issues have been the issue. So I'm wondering, how sustainable is something like this? Are we just going to potentially, regress backwards to what we have now in just a few years? Obviously I'm not complaining. I do personally, I actually quite like what we have now, but it is something to think about. From what I understand, basically they're gonna run it through 27, 28, 29, and I believe in 2030, in 2030, New Zealand football is kind of look at the books and say, okay, how sustainable is this for us? So at least now, at the moment, they are actually considering that this might not be sustainable, but yeah, ultimately, I am down for something like this. Again, I love the idea of having like a proper first division. It is going to be semi-professional. I don't know if I've mentioned that yet. It's not going to be like a fully professional league. You know, the Knicks and Auckland aren't about to return to a domestic league or anything, but you know, I do like that they're pushing for this. To me, a national league is just an awesome thing to have at home. But yeah, anyway, let me know if you have any questions in the comments. What do you think about this new change? Are you excited for it? And I'll see you all another time, whenever that is.